We are jumping right into one of the most dramatically dense, action-packed texts in all of human history today. We're going to explore how a single tiny seed of jealousy in Genesis 4 triggers this massive ripple effect that ultimately births human civilization right before our eyes. So let's dive straight into this absolutely chilling warning. God paints this incredibly vivid, predatory image of sin as something just crouching at the entryway, waiting to strike. It instantly sets this heavy, ominous tone for the entire story that follows. All right, moving right along to part 1, the two brothers. Right off the bat, we see a really clear dichotomy between Adam and Eve's first two sons. Cain is a tiller of the ground, working the soil, right? While Abel is a keeper of sheep. And when it comes time to bring an offering, Cain brings the fruit of the ground and Abel brings the firstlings of his flock. The source text tells us that God had respect for Abel's offering, but not for Cain's. And boom, the core conflict is completely set. Now, what's fascinating here is that we capture the exact psychological moment resentment takes root. Wrath literally means fiercely angry, and his countenance fell. I mean, you can almost see his face dropping into this dark, bitter scowl. It's this precise internal shift that prompts God's warning, basically reminding Cain, hey, you still have agency. You have a choice to make. Which brings us to part 2, the first murder. In one brisk, absolutely brutal sentence, the ancient text confirms that Cain completely ignored that divine warning. There is no drawn-out, dramatic fight scene described here. It's just a conversation out in a field, and then Cain rising up to commit the very first murder. The sheer brevity of the text totally reflects how sudden and shocking the act itself really was. So when God actually comes looking for Abel and asks Cain where his brother is, Cain first flat out lies, saying, I know not. And then he follows up with this iconic, chilling question. It is just a profound deflection of responsibility, where he's attempting to entirely sever that fundamental human tie between brothers. But God's haunting response pierces right through the lie. The visceral imagery here is just incredible. God turns the very earth they're standing on into a vocal witness of the crime. Think about it. Cain is a tiller of the ground, intimately connected to the earth. That makes this specific condemnation hit so incredibly hard. Let's look at the fallout in part 3, the mark and exile. The sheer scale of this punishment is absolute. First, the ground he has worked his entire life, it will no longer yield to him. Second, he's condemned to be a fugitive and a vagabond. And finally, he's driven from the face of the earth and completely hidden from God's presence. Faced with this devastating exile, Cain is terrified. He thinks that without God's protection, anyone who finds him is just going to kill him on sight. And here is where we get a really surprising twist in the text. To prevent endless bloodshed, God actually accommodates Cain's fear. He sets a mark upon Cain. Now, this isn't a mark of damnation meant to put a target on his back. It's actually a protective mark to prevent anyone from slaying him. And it's backed up by a severe promise. Whoever kills Cain, vengeance will be taken on them sevenfold. With this mark, Cain heads out from the presence of the Lord to dwell in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Now things start moving fast. Part 4, the dawn of civilization. Now, really think about this for a second. God cursed Cain to be a wandering vagabond, right? But what does Cain actually do? Rather than just wandering endlessly, Cain actively builds the first recorded city in the text. He names it after his newly born son, Enoch. By building a city, he is firmly planting the roots of human civilization. It's an incredible paradox. The very first murderer, the exiled wanderer, becomes the first city builder. And time accelerates dramatically right here. We sprint from Enoch to Irad to Mehujael to Methuselah, leading us straight to the 5th generation, Lamech. Lamech ends up taking 2 wives, Ada and Zillah, and through his family, human progress is just about to explode. Look at this incredible burst of innovation from Lamech's children. Ada gives birth to Jabal, who innovates nomadic agriculture, and Jubal, who pioneers the arts with the harp and the organ. Meanwhile, Zillah gives birth to Tubal-Cain, an instructor in advanced metallurgy. So in just a handful of generations, springing directly from an exiled murderer, agriculture, music, and advanced technology all bloom simultaneously. But unfortunately, it's not all progress. Part 5, the cycle of vengeance. Lamech gathers his 2 wives together to deliver this terrifying boast of murder. He proudly announces that he has slain a man merely for wounding him, and a young man just for hurting him. It shows how those newly forged advanced tools of brass and iron haven't just built up civilization, they've severely amplified human brutality. The violence has basically become industrialized, boastful, and wildly disproportionate. This reveals a terrifying escalation. Originally, God promised that if anyone killed Cain, God would avenge it sevenfold. But Lamech takes that divine concept and totally twists it, declaring, "If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold." The math here is wild. He is claiming this massive, self-appointed vengeance. It's an unchecked declaration of raw human power. Finally, we hit part 6, a new seed. Just as it seems like things are spiraling, the story pans away from all the violence in Nod and returns to Adam and Eve for a quiet reset. Eve gives birth to Seth, viewing him as a divine replacement for the murdered Abel. After all those loud boasts of brass and vengeance, this offers a completely new, genuinely hopeful branch for humanity to grow from. The narrative of Genesis 4 resolves with Seth having a son named Enos, culminating in the phrase, "Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord." This is a huge turning point. Because while Cain's lineage was busy building cities and forging weapons, this new lineage finally reaches back out to the divine, restoring that connection that was shattered between the original two brothers. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you pondering this fascinating duality. The text presents the very origins of culture, our cities, our arts, our technologies, as inextricably linked to our absolute darkest impulses of jealousy and violence. It's a beautifully complex portrait of the intertwined roots of human progress and human flaws. Keep that in mind as you look at the modern world around you today, and as always, keep asking the big questions.